So much, Sam. Very generous words, and very generous of you to write such a lovely comment on the back. Somebody asked me, how did you persuade Sam to come and do this? Or how did you persuade? Well, Sam and Anna came and stayed in my house, and they didn't know about the cameras. But I will destroy them. Pictures here after Sam. There's not a problem, honestly. One of the reasons why I asked Sam was I had the privilege of going to his book launch in the Lorraine Theatre a few years ago. What year was that? 4 years ago? Very lovely. And it was just...
2019.
Yeah, it was something else. I mean, the subject was something else. Burned, the cash for ash scandal, and that night was packed out. The right mustn't have had a kind of problem with public liability insurance because it wasn't really packed out. I think we're only allowed to have 38, and here's my 40 an hour, 38, so we're good. It was all right. And it was a great night's crack. I mean, there was a serious thing because it was about cash for ash, but you had Tim McGarry, who was, I still remember some of his stories, and one of which was, he was talking about various politicians who couldn't make it. I can't remember what Arlene was doing, do you remember? But I do remember he said Jerry Adams was going to come, but he's decided that he wants to spend more time with his conscience. And the other one, he said, here we have this incredible story of cash for ash, thousands, millions of pounds being wasted. Farmers, horrible, just the money that we all as taxpayers pay down the drain because of this stupid initiative. And Sammy Wright hears about it and thinks, I can make a Robert here. Another reason for picking Sam was, Sam, obviously, because of the whole pellets and all that crack, is a bit of an expert in wood. And the main character in this book is, his name is Dara, which, if you know any Irish, means Dara, means oak tree. And so there's that little tiny similarity. Before I read Sam's book, I always thought that unionists burned pallets. Turns out it was pellets. So, hope everyone's happy. If you need more wine, please signal to my brother Kenny here. He's used to wine bottles and things. So come around for you a glass. Morris, you're well down yours, huh?
I'll get a book later on.
We have ice cream coming in, Maud's ice cream coming in later on, that's so Sam can have a scoop. This afternoon we had a lovely event in Dunluce Castle. The backstory to the event, and it was announced on the radio this morning as that was the launch at 1 o'clock in Dunluce. Which worried a few people. Morris phoned me to say, what? No, it wasn't because we did. And lots of people turned up at 12 because they misheard 1 and thought it was 12. And so there were people there at 12 o'clock for the launch. And then they disappeared, and I don't know who they were because the castle didn't take names. And also, the whole backstory was the guy in Dunluce said, yeah, good idea, but you better check with head office. I'll not go into the detail of head office, but it was, after a while, it was public liability insurance. You have to have that. You have to have risk assessments. And I wrote back and said, look, American tourists come in here with cameras. All I have is a camera and a harp. I sent them a picture of you playing harp with the already, would you believe, which had not required any risk assessments. What was going to happen? A string break and put somebody's eye out or what? So, no, they wouldn't allow it. So, in the end, we just went and did it anyway. I really don't believe in red tape and all that stuff. So, it was in my mind that whenever General Monroe attacked the castle in 1642, he didn't have to have public liability insurance or risk assessments or anything else. He just kind of went for it. You can buy these books tonight. That's one of the deals here. And they cost £12 on Amazon if you leave it until the morning. But tonight you can have them for 10, and if you buy 2, you can have them for 20. And if you haven't seen the other books, the first one is a very much Donegal story. Ellen the Mara is the most gorgeous little island. My former pupils, it's so lovely to see 1, 2, 3, 4 former pupils here tonight. I think it's 4. Put your hands up, please. That's really good. And Janine is one of those amazing cases who proves the power of careers department.
Oh, God.
Because when Janine was in school, she wanted to be a mechanic. Look at her! Look at her! She was a mechanic. She qualified as a mechanic. Guess what she does now? She paints nails. So the careers department screwed you up.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, Janine came across to Donegal to visit the island and loved it. And Val, who's here from Yorkshire. Yorkshire's on an off the shore island, isn't it? Came across to see the island as well. If you haven't been, it's a very special place. And I think that's a very special story. Enough advertising. It's followed by the Broken Fiddle, which is probably the most, it's certainly sold the most, 1922. The same people in 1946, I think. So that's a kind of like a, what's it called, a sequel. Yeah. And then there's another book here called Fold. So if you wanted to pick up one of those and take it away, put it under your bed and for a read later on, that will cost you another tenner. All right. Someone asked me the question, why do your books have musical themes? So the main character in this here is a girl who doesn't speak, but she plays the tin whistle brilliantly. The main character in this here is a fiddle player. And by the way, the wee girl who modelled for this has just been appointed as the fiddle player for Lord of the Dance. Little Megan from Donegal. So just this week she got the job. She's phenomenal. She was in the London competition for best fiddle players. Is that right, Donald?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, something else. And then the fiddle player again here, and in this book here it's a guitar player. And if you think about it, there's a little thread there, because here we have a whistle player, here we have a fiddle player, and of course we now have a harp and a harp player as well. So, and to my way of thinking, music is something that's always connected with me, and so it's the musical motif is important. The Broken Fiddle was about the destruction of something beautiful. Will it ever be restored? In the sense of Ireland being destroyed through violence and partition and so on. Shouldn't really have said that on the day of the synod, should I? and the harp thing, the Last Harp of Dunluce, is about the end of the Gaeldom. Certainly the Gaelic chieftains in Ireland, in a sense, because Dunluce kind of fell at that point and was never really restored to its former glory. So, with all those things in mind, and I thought we would just bring the girls tonight. They are such a privilege to work with them. Richard, you asked me a question the last time you heard us play. How do you do it, David? How do you pull these three?
I didn't quite put it exactly.
Ask me something like that. And I said, well, they value my sort of fashion sense. They forever text me, what do we wear tonight? What's the dress code? What's the about this? What's the dress code for tonight? I said, wetsuits. Well, I thought just to break up the monotony of me talking too much, we would play a tune, if you don't mind. If you want to listen, you're more than welcome to listen. No crisps or get more drinks. We'll go very briefly about the origin of this story because it didn't start off as a novel, did it, Rhonda?
No, it did not.
In 1999 we did a show in Dunlop High School, and it's lovely to have a fellow colleague from Dunlop High School, formerly, Alison, as well as Lucy, who's a current teacher there. And the show was called The Fairy Thorn, and it was basically the story of the Siege of Ballintoy. Information was easy to get. There was a lot of great information. People like Morris McHenry here, he lives in Ballintoy, and was chair of the strike, I should say. An old gentleman called Bertie Mackay, he was just a mine of information. Don't want me to take you down to his house today. And the whole thing built up, and we had a class show. One of my favourite shows, Rhonda was the lead character. She played the part of Katie, the heroine, is that the right word? Heroine? No, heroine's wrong, isn't it? of this story. Although I have changed her name to Mackay in honour of Bertie Mackay. She's not Katie Scott anymore. It went down really well. One of my favourite memories of it is the clouds going across the background. Do you remember that? We've got one of those machines that makes clouds move, so painted clouds up on the wall or the backdrop, the clouds move. And the wind blew, and the tree was bent in that direction because in that direction, because the prevailing winds were from the west. So it was very realistic. I really believed in doing realism in shows. So for example, the men were fishing. So classic fish, no way. Cardboard fish, no way. Have to be real fish. So we got real fish. Do you know where this is going? We got real fish. Each night we had this bunch of real fish. And the fish were shoveled around on the stage and all the rest of it. Realism, so important. The last night, they'd forgotten to put the fish in the fridge. The fish were way off. And you could smell, I was in the orchestra pit, you could smell the fish. But worse than that was the night before the last night, there's a word for that. Somebody had fallen over a wall and knocked the wall down. So it meant that one of our key teachers, George Dallas, the last night had to climb in behind the wall, lie on his back and hold the wall in place. The wall was cardboard, obviously, the fish weren't. So as he's lying in there, some of the stage hands decide, we think George is great crack, you take this and good spirit. So they fired the fish at the top. And all the video you can actually see flying fish. You see trout and all the rest of it get fired on top of George. That was one of the really nice little kind of memories. We brought all the cast to Ballintoy as well, and I think we went up to the Druids altar, and we went to the church where the siege had taken place. So it's a new building was built. 1813. I knew that, didn't I tell you? 1813.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I did my homework, Robert. Thanks. Robert's a history expert, by the way, on all matters Ballintoy and further afield. Absolutely. So we had our clergyman, the Reverend Blair, who was actually, in this case, Welsh. His name was Richard Rees, and he got up on the pulpit, a bit like yourself, Robert. He got up on the pulpit in Ballintoy Church and preached the exact sermon which is in this book. So you have to buy it and read. It went down really well. It was all about kind of God giving the land to the people, the promised land, to these. I was going to say planters coming in. Actually, in Northampton it wasn't so much planters because the fluid movement of traffic between Northampton and the islands had been really, really strong for many generations. And I take great pride in the fact that my ancestors left County Down as Dunleavy, MacDoonshleeve, if you want the Irish, left County, were chased out of County Down and went to Scotland, and then came back as Protestants, not so much as planters, but as natural migrants, as were many people who flowed between here and Islay, including the Mackays, and so on. So it's just never very simple. It's always much more complex. Right.